Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Tuesday, February 11, 2020. Join us for the next 45 minutes as we deliver today's top stories around the globe. I am Angela Lagunsad sitting in for Angelo Castro III.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and live via streaming worldwide through UNTV News and Rescue Facebook account and UNTVweb.com. I am Herlene Delgado sitting in for William Theo.
And here are the headlines.
The number of deaths from the novel coronavirus rises to over 1,000 as experts from the World Health Organization arrive in China. Filipinos who have lost their jobs in China due to the coronavirus scare call for help to fly back home. Taiwan urges Philippines to lift the travel ban on its citizens as some airlines cancel flights from Manila to Taipei. A person under investigation in Bicol shares the situation inside a quarantine facility. The Philippines officially sends its notice of termination of the Visiting Forces Agreement to the United States. And a legal expert says the Solicitor General's move to file a petition for quo warranto against ABS-CBN is not usurpation of the power of Congress.
The number of deaths from the 2019 novel coronavirus has breached the 1,000 mark as two senior officials in the hard-hit province of Hubei were removed from their jobs.
Meanwhile, a team of World Health Organization or WHO experts have arrived in China to assist with controlling the epidemic. The announcement follows weeks of requests from the WHO and CDC to travel to the country to assist in investigating the virus. Here's Kath Dumaraos to tell us why.
China has reported 108 new coronavirus deaths on February 10, the highest daily toll since the outbreak began in Wuhan late last year, as two senior officials in the hard-hit province of Hubei were removed from their jobs. The total number of deaths on the mainland reached 1,016 in the 24 hours until midnight, the National Health Commission said on Tuesday. Some 2,478 new cases of infection were confirmed, bringing the total to 42,638. Of the most recent deaths, 103 were in the province of Hubei, including 67 in the provincial capital of Wuhan. The virus is thought to have originated there in a seafood market that sold wild animals as well. Two senior health officials in the province, Zhang Jin, who was party secretary of the Health Commission for Hubei, and Ling Yingji, who was director of the Hubei Provincial Health Commission, were removed from their posts, state media reported on Tuesday, a day after Chinese President Xi Jinping visited health facilities in Beijing. In his first public appearance since the outbreak began, Xi donned a face mask and had his temperature checked while visiting medical workers and patients in the capital. Medical experts of an advanced team of World Health Organization have arrived in China to cooperate with their Chinese counterparts in fighting against the novel coronavirus pneumonia outbreak. The team is expected to lay the groundwork for the larger international team.
The team could range between 10 and 15, but we're aiming for 10 actually to make it as manageable as possible. So they will have a plan. They will organize a plan based on the discussion with their counterparts.
The WHO coordinated team of global experts will investigate the effective control of the virus.
So we both learn more about the virus, to learn more about the investigations that have been carried out by Chinese scientists and epidemiologists, to understand the nature of the public health response, which reaches right from the lowest level in the community right the way through the system to the top. So there are huge lessons to be learned from that experience.
Meanwhile, the General Hospital of the People's Liberation Army in Beijing started real-time telemedicine for severe cases of novel coronavirus pneumonia in the Huoshenchan Hospital in Wuhan. Using a remote diagnosis system built with 5G technologies, an expert team of the PLA General Hospital from departments covering medicine of critical care, respiration, infectious diseases, and cardiology made remote diagnosis of the seriously sick patients suffering from the novel coronavirus based on medical records transmitted in real time through the system. The Huashensan Hospital was completed in 10 days to battle the novel coronavirus in Wuhan, the epicenter of the outbreak of the NCP. Kat Dumaraos, UNTV News and Rescue.
Some Filipinos in China appeal for help from the Philippine government. More OFWs in Shanghai express willingness to return to the Philippines. Dulce Alarcon reports why.
Elsie Lopez is an undocumented overseas Filipino worker in Kunshan City, Jiangsu Province, China. Kunshan City, along with other cities, are already on lockdown. Elsie's employer has terminated her due to the new virus scare. No other employers are willing to give her a job. That is the challenge Elsie, among other OFWs in China, is facing. More Filipinos in Shanghai, both documented and undocumented, who are stuck in the current situation, want to go back to the Philippines. But they say they are advised by the Philippine consulate to wait for the situation to normalize. But it seems like the nCoV cases in China are worsening.
Tumawag po kami sa consulate dito, nagtanong po kami kung kailan kami pwede mag-process ng papel para po makulong at makauwi. Ang sabi po sa amin, hahantayin pa daw po namin maging normal po ang lahat. Mahal na Pangulo, natatakot po kami na hantayin yung maging normal ang lahat kasi po wala na po kaming trabaho, wala na po kaming pambiling pagkain, hindi po kami makalabas ng gate.
UNTV News has asked for a response from the Department of Foreign Affairs regarding Elsie's situation. But the DFA has not replied as of yet. According to Malacanang, the Philippine government is ready to help Filipinos in China based on President Rodrigo Duterte's directive, as long as the requests are forwarded to the government.
As soon as we get any requests for repatriation, we will respond to that request.
So, sabi ko, kung ang Pilipino doon pinapaalis, ipupunta tayo and we will marshal all available carriers there by ship or by air. Kunin natin sila. And of course, there will always be precautions. Ang caveat dyan is do not break the rules.
Dulce Alarcon, UNTV News and Rescue, China.
The Taiwanese government urges the Philippines to lift the travel ban, which officially began yesterday. Meanwhile, several airline carriers suspend flights bound for Taiwan. Joan Nano tells us why.
The Taiwanese government appeals to the Philippines to withdraw the temporary travel ban on travelers coming from the neighboring state. The move aims to thwart the spread of the new coronavirus. Taiwan's foreign ministry spokeswoman reiterates their country is entirely separate from China.
We are at the moment proactively in communication and have lodged representations with the Philippines, including the Presidential Office and Foreign Ministry, to tell them that we are not a virus area of China's and that our country's controlling of the novel coronavirus has been very good from the start. We are currently urging government of the Philippines through all channels to change this unilateral decision as quickly as possible.
More than 100,000 Filipinos live and work in Taiwan. Majority of them work in factories and as household helpers. The Philippines Bureau of Immigration announced yesterday the travel ban on Taiwan would take effect immediately and follow the same procedures in the travel ban on China, Hong Kong, and Macau. Following Taiwan's inclusion in the travel ban, several airline carriers have canceled their flights to Taiwan in compliance with the government's order. Those include Philippine Airlines, Cebu Pacific, and Air Asia. However, there are some carriers that still push through with their flights to Taiwan, such as China Airlines and EVA Airlines. A Filipino family supposed to take a week-long vacation in Taiwan immediately went back home upon knowing their return flight booked with Cebu Pacific has been cancelled due to the travel ban.
Nabook po namin yung EVA Airs, which is in business class pa po, so napakamahal. Pero pinatulan na po namin kasi desperate na po kami. Wala po kaming pagsustayan din po here sa Taiwan. Ay, dun sa Taiwan.
The local airlines have yet to announce the resumption of their flights to China, Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan, as this will depend on the Philippine government's decision. Joanaro, UNTV News and Rescue, Pasay City.
A patient under investigation in Bicol shares her condition in a quarantine facility. She and others are now under a 14-day quarantine in the region. Alan Manansala explains why.
Melissa is one of the patients under investigation or PUI in the Bicol region due to the 2019 nCoV. On this video, the Bicolana shows her situation inside a quarantine area in a hospital in the province. Melissa shares that she went to Hong Kong for a vacation last January 23. After enjoying 5 days in the city popular with tourists, she flew back to her hometown. But 8 days after that, she experienced coughs, a runny nose, and fever, so the officials in their barangay advised her to consult with a doctor. And because she was manifesting symptoms of novel coronavirus infection, she was not allowed to go back home.
Hinold na nila ako dito. Ito, naka-quarantine. Noong Sabado, kinuna nila ako ipina-x-ray nila ako. Tapos kahapon, kinuhaan ako ng CBC. Tapos kanina, kinuhaan ako ng swab.
Since the quarantine is sudden, Melissa's relatives are quite worried.
Okay man lang po sana, kaso po hindi sa amin pinapaliwanag ng maray kung ano talaga na sa sitwasyon, dapat naman sa pasyente. Kung anong sitwasyon, kung ano dapat. Tapos kung talagang kasi, yung bagal din kasi ng proseso, kasi kung talagang dapat talaga nilab na nila ng kumbaga na na pina-admit nila sa tao. Ganun po. Tapos yung kung talagang nakalakop yan, halimbawa talagang positive, di ang dami na po pala naming kasi na-expose na kami din sa marami. So akin, nag-squila na nga ng 1 week and 2 days. Makaabot me. Bakit parang siya lang is yung isolated siya na pig-quarantine siya ng ganun po.
But Melissa's allays her relatives' worries.
Lahat po ng mga pangangailangan ko, binibigay nila dito.
She says the facility is clean and in good condition.
So, okay naman po dito. Yan, habang pag walang ginagawa, yan po nagsiselfone, palipas oras, boring. Yun po. Ayan, ito po ang aking kwarto. Ayan, may basurahan, wala akong lamesa dito, walang upuan, kundi nag-iisang higaan. Yan. Andito po ako habang naka-quarantine, kain, tulog.
Melissa adds that 2 others are being quarantined inside the facility.
Okay naman yung ating mga pasyente, stable naman sila, and lahat po ng karampatang aksyon para doon sa mga pasyente ay ginagawa naman po ng DRPTH.
Though under quarantine, Melissa is hopeful everything will be back to normal.
Para mawala po yung aking pagka-boring, nakikipag-chat po ako sa mga kaibigan, sa family. Naniniwala naman po akong malalampasan ko po ito.
Alan Manansala, UNTV News and Rescue, Albay.
The World Health Organization says that the 2019 novel coronavirus can be transmitted through air remains to be a rumor. Meanwhile, the Philippines may expect thousands more test kits for the nCoV in the coming days, coming from WHO. Aiko Miguel reports why.
World Health Organization country representative Dr. Rabindra Abhiya Singha explains that the novel coronavirus is proven to be infectious only through direct or close contact with a person infected with it. Though reports that say the nCoV can be infectious and spreads fast through airborne transmission have been circulating, WHO says that such claim has not been proven by study and research.
We've heard the rumors, as you rightly mentioned. Our position is that we don't have evidence to support that. our evidence is that it's still largely a droplet infection. So I'm not quite sure what led to this rumor. It may have been something in the translation that led to this, because as we've said right along, there's many things about this disease we do not know yet. Our evidence at this point points to the fact that this is largely a respiratory infection that can be transmitted via droplets or through close contact.
Dr. Rabi advises the public to be vigilant and observant of news circulating online. Aside from the spread of the nCoV, WHO is also resolving the so-called infodemic, or the fast spread of erroneous and unverified news about the new coronavirus.
We need to establish that there are many things that are being reported by various countries and various researchers. Unless we have clear evidence to confirm that, we cannot accept those theories, right? You are aware that we are fighting much faster infodemic than the virus spread.
WHO also clarifies the news that the nCoV's new 24-day incubation period is still unverified. WHO also emphasizes the increased number of nCoV cases and mortality does not mean it is more infectious and deadlier compared with SARS and MERS-CoV.
If you look at the proportion of patients with severe disease, I believe that's now around 14% of all cases. And the proportion of deaths is like 2% in comparison to SARS, where we had 14%, and MERS, where we had 34%.
WHO also wants to expand the Philippines Health Department's capability to fast-track the release of the results of confirmatory tests taken from the samples or specimen of patients under investigation, or PUI. There were 1,500 primers or reagents made available by WHO this morning. 3,000 more will come in the next days. Through the test kits, a PUI can be discharged immediately after their test results turned out negative for nCoV. The DOH reports that as of today, there are 382 PUIs in the country. Of them, 266 are isolated in health facilities. There remains to be 3 confirmed 2019 nCoV cases in the Philippines. 2 of them have recovered. 1 has died, the first death recorded by WHO outside China. All 3 are Chinese citizens. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Nearly a week into quarantine on the Diamond Princess, an Australian family are passing the time as best they can, while 66 more people on board tested positive for the coronavirus. Nina Bascon will tell us why.
Auna Tan and her family have been confined to their cabin after their cruise ship, the Diamond Princess, was placed in quarantine after arriving in Yokohama, south of Tokyo, on February 3. Since the weekend, passengers of the cruise ship have been allowed out on open decks in shifts for about an hour at a time, provided they wear face masks and stand no closer than 2 meters to each other. The cruise company has given all passengers thermometers, advising everybody to check their temperatures routinely. Tan says she is grateful that their family is at least staying together.
I'm just glad that we are together as a family. I know some other families who because they've got separate rooms with kids, are unable to see their kids.
But she admits they have missed out on a lot of things.
Kids were supposed to start school, so they're missing out on school. We were looking forward to the Queen and Adam Lambert concert, where we're going to miss that now.
The quarantine will end on February 19, barring any unforeseen developments, Princess Cruises says. Until then, passengers are living in an atmosphere of both boredom and fear. To get them preoccupied throughout the day, the family regularly exercise to keep them healthy. They also have access to social media to share their concerns with their relatives and to know what's going on outside the ship.
I've been chatting to a lot of family and friends, a lot of messages coming in. My daughter's been able to do some homework because of emailing with teachers and online school portals. So she's got some textbooks, pages that's been sent to her so she can do some work. And my husband's been able to work remotely because he's got his laptop and internet connection, so he's been doing a bit of work thier.
Meanwhile, the Japanese government is planning to allow elderly passengers as well as those with chronic illnesses to leave the quarantined ship soon. The decision has emerged as passengers have apparently been under stress during their prolonged isolation on the ship. 66 more cases of infection had been confirmed on the boat in the largest jump since quarantine began. The spike brings the total number of Diamond Princess infections to 135, making the ship the largest cluster of cases outside China. Among the new cases are 45 passengers from Japan, 11 from the US, 4 from Australia, 3 from the Philippines, and 1 each from Canada, England, and Ukraine. Nina Bascon, UNTV News and Rescue, Australia.
Welcome back to Y News. The Philippine government has sent the notice of termination of the Visiting Forces Agreement with the U.S. A palace official says Washington does not need to respond to the notice. Rosa Licos explains why.
The Department of Foreign Affairs announces it has sent a notice of termination of the Visiting Forces Agreement or VFA signed by Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddy Locsin. The Deputy Chief of Mission of the Embassy of the United States in the Philippines has received a notice. This is also confirmed by Malacanang.
The President directed the Executive Secretary Salvador Medellea to tell Secretary Teddy Boy Locsin of the Foreign Affairs to send a notice of termination to the U.S. government last night. And the Executive Secretary sent the message to Secretary Teddy Boy Locsin, and the latter signed the notice of termination and sent to the U.S. government today.
It means 180 days after the U.S. received a notice of termination, the VFA will be completely abrogated. The VFA is an agreement signed between Manila and Washington in 1998 on the treatment of American military personnel when they visit the Philippines. According to the presidential spokesperson, the U.S. does not need to respond to the notice.
There's no response needed. But the effective date would be 180 days from receipt of the receiver, U.S. government.
The palace also adds this is the right time for the Philippines to rely on its own in enhancing the country's defense capability. He also says there are other nations which offer the same agreement with the Philippines. Rosa Licos, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
Lawmakers in the upper chamber remain firm that the Senate must be consulted first on matters pertaining to treaty revocation. This comes after the Philippines formally signed its notice of termination of the Visiting Forces Agreement with the United States. More details in this report. Following the official termination of the Visiting Forces Agreement between the Philippines and the United States, some senators remain firm that revocation of treaties and international agreements should have the concurrence of the Senate. Hours before the signing of the VFA termination, the Senate adopted Senate Resolution number 312 asking President Rodrigo Duterte to reconsider his plan to withdraw the VFA while the upper chamber is conducting its review of the agreement. According to Senate President Vicente Soto III, and Senator Joel Villanueva, the Senate may take the issue up to the Supreme Court.
Palagay ko may possibility na makarating na Supreme Court yung issue namin which is that we should be consulted upon termination.
And you will support
before termination. Yes, yeah, I will support that.
Kung status ko yung magiging posisyon ng dalawang branch of the government, pupunta siguro ito doon sa Judikatura and the Supreme Court will decide on it.
Meanwhile, Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa says he is bothered by the official termination of the VFA. The senator admits the country will suffer a big loss now that the VFA has been terminated. The palace has said that it was the cancellation of Senator De La Rosa's U.S. visa that made President Duterte finally decide to withdraw from the agreement.
Wala na, finish na. Medyo bothered din ako, kahit papaano. Bothered ako dahil parang bang lumalabas na I am the reason of it all. I was the last straw. Bakit pa ako pa ang naging last straw? Kaya nakukonsensya ako.
As the countdown to 180 days begin, Senator Panfilo Lacson says this has reduced the Mutual Defense Treaty a mere piece of paper as far as the U.S. is concerned. This would mean, according to the senator, that there's no more sharing of intelligence information for the country's counter-terrorism efforts and no more military and humanitarian aid from the U.S. Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. has earlier said the termination of the VFA would negatively impact the country's security and bilateral agreements. Meanwhile, for Senator Christopher Bongo,
antayin nyo na lang magkaroon ng bagong presidente if you want to enter into a new agreement with any country.
In a statement, the U.S. Embassy in the Philippines says the move is a serious step with significant implications on the U.S.-Philippines alliance. The U.S. Embassy adds it will carefully consider how to move forward to advance the two nations' shared interests and remain committed to their friendship. Harleen Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines. Several members of both the upper house and lower house of Congress say the Solicitor General's move against ABS-CBN in effect usurps the power of Congress. But a legal expert says otherwise. Dante Amento tells us why.
Some lawmakers questioned the move of Solicitor General Jose Calida to file a petition for quo warranto against ABS-CBN with the Supreme Court. Based on his mandate, the Solicitor General is the principal law officer and legal defender of the government. Yesterday, he asked the High Court to revoke ABS-CBN Corporation and its subsidiaries' Convergence franchise. For several lawmakers, such move is a usurpation of the exclusive power of the Congress to renew or cancel a legislative franchise. But Attorney George Erwin Garcia, the Dean of Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Maynila's College of Law, says the quo warranto is the Solicitor General's legal remedy to prove his allegations through the court. Under Presidential Decree No. 478, the Solgen has the power to investigate, initiate court action, and to question the existence of a corporation that violates the law.
Tatandaan natin, ang Solicitor General ay abogado ng pamahalaan at nasa mandato niya yan. Hindi naman pwedeng porket na-issuehan ka ng franchise, absolutely, permanently at wala nang pwede mag-question sa'yo. Hindi naman pribilehiyo ang isang prangkisa. Tatandaan natin, hindi po yung karapatan.
Attorney Garcia further explains, Solgen's power and functions encompass not just the existence of a corporation but also its activities.
Lalong-lalo na yung magke-question ng mga violation kung meron man ng isang entity na nabigyan ng prangkisa ng Kongreso. Ang kasagutan, oo, nasa kapangyarihan ng Solicitor General.
The court is a good venue for ABS-CBN to respond to the allegations against the company, Garcia adds. A separate hearing may also be held. For example, the franchise issue is for the Congress to handle, while the Solicitor General's petition will be for the Supreme Court.
Okay, nag-file ng kaso sa Supreme Court. It will not and does not prevent Congress from exercising its function. What do you mean by that? So pwede na sila magpadinig patungkol sa pagre-renew ng prangkisa ng ABS-CBN o kung kahit na anong entity man. Despite the filing of a case in the Supreme Court,
Garcia further says the different parties just have to wait for the court's decision on the petition. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue, Quezon City.
A lawmaker in the upper chamber wants to temporarily suspend the operations of Philippine offshore gaming operators amid a number of problems involving illegal workers. More details in this report.
Isuspindi muna ang lahat ng POGO operations hanggat hindi natin aayos ang ating mga patakaran.
This was the call of Senator Joel Villanueva after its hearing on the influx of illegal foreign workers involved in the Philippine offshore gaming operator or POGO operations. According to the Department of Labor and Employment, after its inspection of POGO offices last year, they discovered over 6,000 foreign workers who have no alien employment permit or AEP from the agency. This means they are illegally working in the country and not paying their taxes. The Labor Department requires foreign nationals to secure first their tax identification number or TIN issued by the Bureau of Internal Revenue before having the permit.
Regulating I'm only asking, they're not paying taxes, they don't have TIN, then they're illegal. Is that yes or no?
Sir, if they're not paying
they are not paying
if the
taxes.
company is not paying the taxes, not properly withholding
Yes.
the taxes from the salaries of the employees, then
they're illegal.
However, the Bureau of Immigration noted that half of them had special working permits before they stopped issuing such to POGO workers in the last quarter of last year. Villanueva adds the concerned government agencies and the task force should consolidate their data. Based on the data presented at the hearing, there are 59 accredited POGOs in the country and over 200 accredited service providers. The senator also lamented the billions of government losses from unpaid taxes. Villanueva cited the Department of Finance report that at least 2.5 billion pesos per month or 30 billion pesos per year are lost due to uncollected withholding taxes of illegal POGO workers and up to 50 billion pesos including uncollected corporate taxes. The senator also expressed concern on the reported increase in crimes involving POGO foreign workers.
Itong mga bagay na ito ay sumasalamin sa hindi nating kahandaan dito sa POGO industry na ito. Klarong-klaro po na dapat pansamantalang itigil muna ito kung naniniwala po tayong dapat kapakanan ng nas nakakarami ang ating dapat protektahan.
Harleen Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
The Philippine National Police intensifies its campaign against illegal gambling. Even sakla or acts of illegal gambling during a wake are prohibited. Joanne Nano details why.
The National Capital Region Police Office prohibits all forms of illegal gambling in Metro Manila. These include number games, color games, video carrera, and sakla during wake. NCRPO Director Police Major General Debold Sines says he has talked with local chief executives in Metro Manila about prohibiting illegal gambling during wake.
Ang guidance ko, pakiusapan muna, pagkatapos kung ayaw, saka i-rate. Para hindi sila masabi na wala din kaming konsiderasyon.
Sines adds he will automatically relieve police officers whose jurisdiction has illegal gambling operations.
Lantarang saklaan, sabungan, lantarang number games, lantarang BK, kasi ang sinabi namin sa kanila, pag nandyan yan, harap-harapan ninyo at hindi niyo huli, ibig sabihin, meron talaga kayong proteksyon.
NCRPO officials have pledged their support to the PNP chief's no-take policy that aims to curb illegal gambling.
On behalf of the MPD, I would like to pledge to our Chief PNP and our Regional Director to support all their focus program and program trust, as mentioned by our Regional Director, the no-take policy, and to go against all forms of illegal activities.
Ang buo pong Southern Police District under my leadership fully abide with the full commitment of following the no-take policy of our Chief PNP.
Sines calls on the public to take photos or videos and to report to his office if they witness or observe illegal gambling in their area. Joanne Nano, UNTV News and Rescue.
Residents in Agoncillo, Batangas with totally damaged houses may await temporary shelters to be launched by the municipal government. Meanwhile, a fisherman seems to be experiencing a twofold challenge. Jun Surya will tell us why. Exclusive.
The Executive Committee of the Municipality of Agoncillo, Batangas convened today in the Municipal Health Center, the temporary mayor's office. Their main agendum, the creation of an evacuation center on a 4-hectare piece of land owned by the municipal government located in Barangay San Jacinto. The project will initially begin with the building of 30 to 40 housing units. It will be funded with 7 million pesos from the monetary donations of President Rodrigo Duterte and local government units. The Agoncillo government will also launch a project called Adopt a House program, through which they will seek assistance from non-governmental organizations in constructing at least one house per company to augment the housing units for calamity-stricken Agoncillo residents. The permanent evacuation center will be called Agoncillo Friendly Village.
Pinag-iisipan po namin ngayon ano yung disenyo, ano yung mas makakamura at mas matibay naman na bahay. Magiging siyang permanent evacuation center namin ng munisipyo. Na hindi lang sa pagputok ng bulkan, kundi kung may bagyo, kalamidad na iba pa, pwede nating doon dalhin ng mga evacuees, no? Or may mangyaring kalamidad sa ibang bayan, pwede natin siyang i-offer.
Data from the municipal government show that more than 2,000 houses across the town were totally damaged after the Taal volcano eruption in January. Though Lorenzo Gagalang is not qualified to be a beneficiary of the housing project, he still hopes for the government's help. The fisherman's house was not totally damaged after the volcanic eruption. He said he will construct even a nipa hut in another town, since his damaged home lies within 7-kilometer danger zone. They salvage what's left of coconut trees in the area. They will utilize the lumber that can still be useful in building their new house while the Taal volcano continues to show some activities. The fisherman adds the challenge his family is facing. It's twofold. Their livelihood been affected by the recent natural calamity, and his wife, a domestic worker in Hong Kong, is coming home soon from the nCoV-stricken Chinese Special Administrative Region.
Dahil sa coronavirus na yan, hindi na nga makabili ng mga pagkain. Wala mabili bigas. Baka hindi maintindihan kung baka umuwi rin. Wala rin, uuwi rin sa wala.
The Agoncillo local government has launched daily clearing operations on roads for their gradual improvement and recovery. Jun Suriao, UNTV News and Rescue, Agoncillo, Batangas.
The Department of Foreign Affairs assures continued efforts to repatriate Filipinos from Hubei, China. Meanwhile, some overseas Filipino workers are more afraid to lose their jobs than getting sick with the nCoV, according to an OFW group. Vincent Arboleda will tell us why.
The Department of Foreign Affairs continues its efforts to urge Filipinos in the province of Hubei, China, to come back to the Philippines. According to the DFA, there are around 295,000 Filipinos in China, including those in Hong Kong and Macau. The DFA says it is facing limitations in repatriation as the size of Hubei is slightly bigger than the land areas of Luzon and Visayas combined. But the department assures it will accommodate all OFWs in Hubei who want to come back to the Philippines.
Any person, any Filipino who wants to come home, they will be brought home. It's just that this repatriation that we had is for Hubei and Wuhan only because there's a lockdown.
Meanwhile, a group of overseas Filipino workers said during a committee hearing in the House of Representatives that some OFWs still want to proceed to Hong Kong, Taiwan, and other areas included in the travel ban. They fear losing their jobs.
Simple lang po ang argumento nila. Mas natatakot po sila mawalan ng trabaho kaysa magkasakit.
Sentro ng mga nagkakaisa at progresibong manggagawa or Sentro explains some Filipino workers believe that places like Hong Kong are more capable in dealing with the disease. The Philippine Overseas Employment Administration or POEA will look into the status of the OFWs in Macau to make sure their needs are addressed.
We will reiterate the directive to submit a monitoring report to actually ask the employees they deployed in Macau their condition and their welfare.
Vincent Arboleda, UNTV News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
Despite the worries of many citizens, there are some who have created music, works of art, and letters and messages of hope amid the novel coronavirus outbreak the world is now facing. Nina Armilio reports.
Many people are concerned about the novel coronavirus outbreak in China and several confirmed cases in some other countries. But the World Health Organization says the infectivity rate of the 2019 nCoV is lower than that of other deadly viruses. So there's nothing to worry as long as an individual or every country takes the necessary protective measures to prevent transmission and the spread of the disease. Though many have fears, what with a global health emergency, there are some who have come up with songs and works of art with coronavirus as the theme. Just like like the song entitled Coronavirus, sung by Dominican dembow singer Yofrangal 911. It has gained many views and shares on various social media platforms.
Letter from Wuhan. I smelled something different in the air.
And recently, a 9-year-old girl has read a letter to the people of Wuhan City. Sunny wanted to encourage those hit by the 2019 nCoV acute respiratory disease in the epicenter of the outbreak. In the letter from Wuhan, Sunny said the city, the country, the people can overcome the deadly coronavirus.
But within these tears was a newly found hope. One strong enough to fight on and take back my beautiful name. 加油武汉，加油中国!
And well-known sand artist Sudarsan Patnaik yet again displayed his creativity. Through his sand art on Puri Beach, Odisha, India, he sends a message of compassion to people, especially to those afflicted with the 2019 nCoV ARD. His message: fight against coronavirus. We stand with China. His work of art continues to gain thanks and greetings from various personalities and netizens, including WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus. Nina Armilio, UNTV News and Rescue.
And for the news abroad. Thailand's army chief apologized on Tuesday for a rogue soldier whose 19-hour shooting rampage killed 29 people and wounded 57 over the weekend, stunning the country. At times wiping away tears, Thai Army Chief General Apirat Kongsompong said during a 90-minute news conference that the army will compensate all the victims and their families. The soldier, Sergeant Major Jakrapan Toma, was shot dead by security forces on Sunday after he stormed the Terminal 21 shopping center in the northeastern city of Nakhon Ratchasima the day before. Apirat said the military would investigate the commanding officer who was killed, Colonel Anantarot Krase, 48, and the housing deal apparently brokered by Anantarot's mother-in-law, Anong Mitchan, 63. He said authorities will find out who else was involved in the scheme, and he promised a new line of communication so that army personnel could complain directly to the army chief. U.S. President Donald Trump asked for increases in military spending and cuts to social programs. Also, Turkey says Syrian government shell fire has killed Turkish soldiers in Idlib. And the U.S. has charged 4 Chinese military officers over a cyber attack on a credit rating agency. Jovic Burmas details this report.
In the USA, President Donald Trump's $4.8 trillion budget proposal for fiscal year 2021 is likely to get a chilly reception from lawmakers on Monday over its proposals to slash spending on foreign aid and social safety net programs. The White House plans to unveil the budget blueprint for the fiscal year starting on October 1st, but administration officials confirmed key figures from the document over the weekend. Democrats are expected to object to the deep spending cuts on domestic programs, while some Republicans may raise concerns over debt and deficits. The budget calls for a 21% cut in foreign aid to $44.1 billion, down from $55.7 billion enacted in fiscal year 2020. It would make savings in outlays to safety net programs, including $130 billion in Medicare through drug pricing reforms, $292 billion to food stamp and Medicaid programs by enacting new work requirements for beneficiaries, and $70 billion through a clampdown on eligibility for federal disability benefits. Meanwhile, the U.S. has charged 4 Chinese military officers over the huge cyber attack on credit rating giant Equifax. More than 147 million Americans were affected in 2017 when hackers stole sensitive personal data, including names and addresses.
Our cases reveal a pattern of state-sponsored computer intrusions and thefts by China targeting trade secrets and confidential business information. Hacks by the group known as APT-10, which worked in association with the Chinese Ministry of State Security, or MSS, to target managed service providers and their clients worldwide across industries.
The whereabouts of the suspects is unknown, and it's highly unlikely that they will stand trial in the US. In Turkey, an attack by Syrian government forces killed 5 Turkish soldiers in northwest Syria on Monday, threatening further escalation in the region after another deadly artillery strike last week. Turkish defense officials said 5 other troops were wounded in intense shelling in Taftanaz in the northwestern province of Idlib, the last rebel-held stronghold in Syria. Turkey immediately responded and neutralized more than 100 enemy targets, the defense ministry said in a statement. Following that attack, Ankara warned Syrian government forces to retreat to lines agreed in a 2018 ceasefire by the end of February. However, Syria's military promised to continue its campaign, which is focused on seizing 2 highways linking Aleppo to other government-controlled areas. The most recent attack came as a Russian delegation arrived in Ankara for further talks on fighting in Syria. Russia and Iran support Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, while Turkey backs some of the opposition groups that have made Idlib their final stronghold. Jovic Bermas, UNTV News and Rescue.
Scientists surveying chinstrap penguin in the Antarctic have found drastic reductions in many colonies. Details in this report. Researchers studying chinstrap penguins in the Antarctic have found drastic reductions in many colonies, with some declining by as much as 77% since they were last surveyed almost 50 years ago. Scientists on a Greenpeace expedition to the region found every single colony surveyed on Elephant Island, an important habitat northeast of the Antarctic Peninsula, had declined. The number of chinstrap penguins on Elephant Island has dropped almost 60% since the last survey in 1971, with a total count of only 52,786 breeding pairs of chinstrap penguins, plummeting from previous survey estimates of approximately 122,550 pairs.
The declines that we've seen are definitely dramatic. Something's happening to the fundamental building blocks of the food chain here. We've got less food abundance that's driving these populations down lower and lower over time. And the question is that going to continue?
To complete the study, an observer must count every single penguin nest one by one and repeat the count 3 times within a 5% margin to ensure accuracy. It is often easiest to find a high point with a good view and use landmarks like rocks and other terrain features to visually divide up large groups of birds. Elephant Island is home to one of the world's largest chinstrap penguin populations, yet it has only been ornithologically surveyed once in 1971 by a British Joint Services expedition. Campaigners want to set up 3 Antarctic sanctuaries to offer protection for the chinstrap penguin colonies and other species. The proposal for a global ocean treaty, which is due to be discussed at the United Nations in March, could lay the groundwork for a network of ocean sanctuaries covering 30% of the world's oceans by the end of this decade.
I think we stand to lose much of what we love, like the wildlife that we know from the oceans, like penguins, like we see on Elephant Island, but I think it also, in the end, it's sort of what kind of world we want to live in. Our oceans are incredibly important to regulate our global climate.
Kat Dumaraos, UNTV News and Rescue. And those are the news from the other parts of the globe. I'm Kat Dumaraos. Good evening.
A humanoid robot is taking the music industry by storm as the conductor of a new Android opera entitled Scary Beauty. Stephanie C. will tell us why.
The conductor on the podium has no baton, no tailcoat, and no musical score, but Android Ultra 3 is kicking up a storm as it guides a symphony orchestra's player through their paces. The robot has a human-like face, hands, and lower arms, which gesticulate in a lively manner as it bounces up and down and rotates during the live performance of Keiichiro Shibuya's opera Scary Beauty in the Emirate of Sharjah. For Shibuya, a composer from Japan, the role of robots in our everyday lives may well be increasing, but it is up to us to decide how artificial intelligence might add to the human experience, and humans and androids create art together.
This work is a metaphor for the relations between humans and technology. Sometimes the android will get crazy, human orchestras have to follow. But sometimes people can cooperate very comfortably.
Shibuya wrote the music, but the android controls the tempo and volume of the live show, and even sings at times.
The premise is that the android itself is moving according to its own will.
The work's lyrics are based on literary texts from American Beat Generation writer William Burroughs and French author Michael Houellebecq.
But I want to say, first, this is theater work.
The robots and AI that exist now are not at all complete. The focus of my interest is what happens when the incomplete technology comes together with art.
Follow. But sometimes people...
The public who attended the opera were curious about the innovative conductor.
I think that is a very exciting idea. So that's why we came to see how does it look like and how much is it possible.
Stephanie C., UNTV News and Rescue.
With great power comes great responsibility. A proverb popularized by the fictional superhero character Peter Parker, who doubles as Spider-Man, takes on a twist in Indonesia by a 36-year-old citizen who is harnessing its power to encourage his countrymen to take responsibility for his city's problem with waste. Let's watch this.
Rudy Hartono has struggled with his campaign to eliminate rubbish that has piled up in his city, Pare-Pare, located on the southwest coast of Sulawesi Island of Indonesia. Today, he is now a superhero dressed in his Spider-Man costume as he goes through sewers, beaches and streets to clean up trash mostly made up of plastic.
At first, I did the same activity without wearing this costume, and it did not attract the public's attention in order for them to join and help pick up trash. After wearing this costume, it turns out the public's response was extraordinary.
Initially, he admits he bought the Spider-Man outfit simply to amuse his nephew, before others in his town took notice.
We need the creative role model to foster society's active engagement in protecting the environment.
Hartono usually collects waste as Spider-Man before his work at a cafe begins at 7 p.m. His efforts have helped put a spotlight on the waste issue nationally, and he has been interviewed by newspapers and appeared on television chat shows dressed in his Marvel Comics superhero costume. Many parts of Indonesia suffer from having little in the way of organized public services to deal with trash, with plastic waste in particular often ending up in rivers or in the oceans. The environment superhero hoped the government would throw more weight behind efforts to clean up trash and tighten rules on waste management, including on single-use plastic bags.
Minimizing plastic waste is the most important thing to do because plastic is difficult to decompose.
Mirasol Bugadil, UNTV News and Rescue.
And those are the reasons behind the news. And before we close, we will recap with today's significant sound bites. I am Herlene Delgado.
And I am Angela Lagunsad. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Good evening.
Palagay ko may possibility na makarating na Supreme Court yung issue namin, which is that we should be consulted upon termination.
And you will support
before termination. Yes, yeah, I will support that.
Wala na, finish na. Medyo bothered din ako, kahit papaano. Bothered ako dahil ano bang lumalabas na I am the reason of it all. I was the last straw. Bakit pa ako pa ang naging last straw? Kaya nakukonsensya ako.
Kaya tandaan natin, ang Solicitor General ay abogado ng pamahalaan at nasa mandato niya yan. Hindi naman pwedeng porket na-issuehan ka ng franchise, absolutely, permanently at wala nang pwede mag-question sa'yo. Hindi naman pribilehiyo ang isang prangkisa. Tatandaan natin, hindi po yung karapatan.
We've heard the rumors, as you rightly mentioned. Our position is that we don't have evidence to support that. Our evidence is that it's still largely a droplet infection.
Tumawag po kami sa consulate dito, nagtanong po kami kung kailan kami pwede mag-process ng papel para po makulong at makauwi. Ang sabi po sa amin, hahantayin pa daw po namin maging normal po ang lahat. Mahal na Pangulo, natatakot po kami na hantayin yung maging normal ang lahat kasi po wala na po kaming trabaho, wala na po kaming pambiling pagkain, hindi po kami makalabas ng gate.
As soon as we get any requests for repatriation, we will respond to that request.